All right, so up next we're talking about an aerial breakdown. Now an aerial is basically a cartwheel without your hands. Now there's a couple of different ways to think about the aerial as far as breaking it down. There's like the wushu method, where you just try getting your head a little bit lower. You can kind of combine that with the cartwheel kick method, because it kind of ends up looking like the same thing. And then the final way to look at it is maybe just doing like a, just doing a powerful cartwheel and then removing one hand and then eventually removing that last hand. All of these different ways to think about the drill or think about the technique can help, right? Some people will learn it one way and some people might favor another way of approaching it. I personally find that it's easiest to go through the cartwheel kick or the wushu method of learning it. I tried learning it without those methods, and it wasn't really until I went through those methods and actually started using them to teach that I actually started seeing a lot more success. So basically, this is how it works. A cartwheel kick is like a cartwheel, but you're not putting your hands on the ground, and you're lifting your back leg up. Now, the name suggests that it's a kick. Really, it's more like a leg swing. You don't want to think of it like you're chambering and snapping. You really want to think of it more like you're, passing through, like the leg is coming up and kicking around and going through. The travel through is what really makes it a cartwheel kick, not any type of snapping motion. You don't want it to be that sharp, you want it to be more flowy, all right? So basically from here, how this works, you're starting with your hands up. You need to be able to lean your head down. As you lean your head down, you're going to allow your base foot, which in this case is my left foot, to pivot, and the right leg is allowed to lift up and travel up and around the front. Again, notice how I'm not trying to kick out, I'm not trying to chamber or rechamber. I'm literally just pivoting my hips and allowing that kick to come up and around. It's basically following along with the momentum. So again, I'm here, I'm leaning down and kicking up and around. That motion is basically the aerial setup. The only thing you have to do is you have to jump off the ground and land on that cartwheel kicking foot. All right, so basically, if I'm doing my cartwheel kick, all right, I'm coming down here. All I need to do is I have to jump, get this leg off the ground. So I'm going down. As my leg's coming up, I'm hopping and I'm switching my feet. And as long as your head is below your hips, as you jump and switch, that's technically an aerial. And then you clean it up by just improving your technique. All right, so again, I'm doing my cartwheel kick. I'm going here. All right, it doesn't even have to really be super flexible or whatnot. Now I do the same thing, but I'm jumping and switching my feet. So I'm going down, and I'm popping. All right, as I'm doing that cartwheel kick, I'm jumping and trying to land on that kicking leg. All right, the wushu method of learning an aerial is basically, it's roughly the same thing, right? When you learn your wushu, you're learning to dip and kick that leg up as you twist your body to the side, right? As you turn and look towards the back, right? I'm going down, I'm coming up, I'm bringing that leg, and I'm switching as I'm facing the back. The difference with an aerial is you want your head to be more up and down rather than coming back up. Your head kind of stays closer to the ground, all right? So rather than dipping and coming back up to do this, I'm dipping, I'm lifting my leg up, but I'm trying to keep my head towards the ground. I'm not trying to bring my head up again to get myself up and my chest up like I would with a wushu. I'm trying to leave my head towards the ground. So wushu, right? If you notice, I'm arching my head up. I'm trying to look behind me. An aerial, trying to keep my head down there. So once I go down, I really kick my legs a little bit more. I still kind of lifted my head up a little bit, hang on. All right. Trying not to lift my head up. Here. All right, and as long as your legs kick up and over, you're doing an aerial. All right, the final version is by practicing your cartwheels and just getting a really powerful leg kick. All right, the thing with an aerial is you need your legs. Your legs are generating most of the power, most of the momentum. Whereas in a cartwheel, your legs still generate a lot of power and momentum, but your hands are providing some resistance. They're providing some support for you to go up and over, all right? When you don't have your hands, you need that jump and you need that leg drive to get you up and over rather than your hands. Your head's still doing the same movement, right? Your body is acting as a reaction force for your legs, but now your hands don't give you that support that we had with a cartwheel. All right, so when you're practicing your cartwheel, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get a lot of spring out of it. You're really trying to kick those legs. So when I'm approaching that cartwheel, right, I'm really trying to kick my legs up and over. I almost want my hands to be coming off the ground because I'm using so much power, so much energy to lift myself up, all right? So again, as I'm doing that, as I'm doing that cartwheel, right, it's almost like I'm pushing off the ground and my hands are coming free. Another way to think about this, another way to really drill your head motion, because again, like I said, you want your head to spike towards the ground without hitting it. You don't want it to touch the ground, but you want it to go towards the ground. And you want your legs to balance you out. The way to drill that is by cartwheeling behind you. What I mean is when I cartwheel, rather than putting my hands down next to me here, I almost want to cartwheel and put my hands behind my legs. All right, it's kind of a weird motion, but that's the idea. And what that does is it forces you to really rotate your body, rotate your legs up and over. All right, so when I'm cartwheeling almost behind me. All right, it's kind of weird. You need a lot of rotational energy to get yourself up and around, but that's good practice work for really getting your head down at the level that it needs to be to make that aerial work, all right? So again, one more time, I'm doing my cartwheel. Rather than going to the side, I'm trying to go behind my legs and not move at all right? A couple of other things. We can try doing the one arm variation. Again, by doing your cartwheel on one hand, you're using less support, or maybe you're using more support, but it's only on one hand rather than two. So as you're doing that, you're also using that leg to push, right? You want to think of it like you're pushing up and you're jumping off of it, and that back leg is kicking up. So you're pushing, going up and around. Now again, you want to eventually work to the point where you don't need to put your hands down at all. You can still use the build-up, the momentum build-up, and the lean and everything. But the difference is I like to use my hands and kind of keep them in closer. So rather than putting them down, I'm pulling them in and keeping them in close. So I'm going here to get myself up and around. Again, in my opinion, that's probably like the hardest way to learn it, because it really forces you to like get those legs to punch off the ground, right? To jump you up and to kick you around. I find the wushu method or the cartwheel kick method kind of sets you up a little bit better. It may look sloppier in the beginning, but if you combine all of these drills, right? If you work on all of these pieces, you'll improve your overall aerial. Some of the ways that we can practice aerial, if you're concerned about crashing to the ground and failing, we can utilize the pit pillow. All right, one of the ways that we do this is ideally, like I mentioned in the in the front handspring video, you want to be at the same level or even higher if you can. Because what that does is now you don't have to aerial up, right? Landing on something higher than the surface that you're taking off of. You can aerial kind of down, which gives you a little bit of an easier time working on the landing. All right, so if you notice here, this blue mat is a little bit higher because I have both of them stacked than the pit pillow. Now keep in mind, when the more mats that you stack on top of another, the more unstable the surface is, and also you don't really have a lot of room to do any type of running start or any type of like, too much forceful of a lean. So just be careful with that. All right, when I'm coming up here, I'm basically doing that, bringing my hands, but not putting them down. And then if you crash, make a mistake, you're not landing your legs on the ground, you're landing your legs on the pit pillow, and it's a soft landing. You can actually do the same drill with the with the air trick and put the pit pillow on the end and practice aerialing from the air trick to the pit pillow, what that does is that actually gives you a little bit more spring in the floor that you're taking off of, and it equalizes the level of the that you're taking off of, because the air trick is roughly the same thickness as the pit pillow is. So, this might be a stability issue. It might be easier to use the air trick. The problem with the air trick is it takes a little bit longer to set up and take down. So you're cutting into some of your time. Now, if you're an efficient instructor, one of the things you can do is you can start working on the drills, practicing them, and then have an assistant or do it yourself filling up the air trick as people are practicing the other versions of the drills, which can cut down a little bit of the time that you need to set it up. Again, it can be a problem when you're putting it away. So just keep that in mind. You have to start putting it away before the end of class. So that way it's not out on the mats while the next group is trying to do their thing, trying to get ready for their class. But again, like I said before, you can start up here, practice your aerial, right? Leaning back, getting ready, and kicking up and over, landing on the mat. Eventually get a little bit better. You kick one of those off. You do it from here. Right? Whatever it is, you make a mistake, it doesn't matter. And then you eventually remove the blue mat entirely. But again, if you do that, you're gonna have to aerial higher so you can land on the pit pillow. Or you can just try it without anything. And if you make a mistake, you're landing on the mats. Now again, a way to make that safer is to do it on the air trick, where if you land, you'll kind of bounce back, which can work. But like I said before, there's a couple caveats when you're using the air trick. Anyway, that's how I would drill the aerial. That's how I would practice it. So those are some of the drills that you can think about when you're running it in XMA.